The first clip we see of Callum in Season 4 of The Dragon Prince should be familiar in an ominous way. It is a direct reflection of the first clip we see involving Viren and the mirror. Viren is intrigued, he's entranced by the mirror, he wants to unlock its secrets, and once he does that, he wants its power, not because he's some crazed megalomaniac, at least not at first, but because he feels a certain sense of uncertainty and impotence. He genuinely cares about trying to protect the interests of humanity against the power and authority of the elves, who banished humanity from one half of the continent and have magic powers that humans do not have. So, he is also having to come to grips with loss and the complete sense of disorientation and uprooting that such a succinct, direct sense of loss causes one. He has lost Sarai, a good friend of his, and the wife of his best friend, King Harrow. Soon after, in the first episodes of The Dragon Prince, he loses Harrow as well, leaving him alone, desperate, filled with all these longings, all these aspirations that he feels incapable of fulfilling on his own. So he turns to the mirror, he turns to Aaravos, who tempts him and flatters him, and gradually gains more control over him, until Viren becomes monstrous. Callum might not fall directly into the same trap as Viren, but he is in a strangely similar circumstance to Viren. The fact that he is in the same position that Viren once held as the High Mage of Katalis, the close advisor of the king, and that he has very similar haircut even to Viren, are parallels between the two, but there's surface level parallels. The true parallels relate more to their psychological states. They both rely on magic and intelligence rather than brute strength. They're not brilliant warriors, but they know how to think about the world. They know how to unlock its secrets and tricks. And they both feel in desperate need of using more of these tricks. They feel like the strategies and ideas they have are not enough. And then they see this glistening, beautiful, radiant mirror full of secrets and wonders. Like Viren, Callum has also experienced a profound sense of loss. True, he still has Ezran, the king, as a close friend and his brother, and he still has the likes of Soren, but he has lost probably the closest connection in his life with Rayla, and since that point he has seen his fundamental sense of identity and his fundamental sense of the intersubjectivity between him and the world completely be destroyed. He is at a loss of how he should behave, what ideals he should really hold, or how to even go about his everyday life. Again, this is sorrow that Rayla's no longer with him, but it's more than that. Rayla helped him to be better, to put that bluntly. She helped him to become more confident, more sure of himself, to really develop from this dorky, uncertain, awkward kid into a humble but commanding and thoughtful mage who can act on the best interests of the people. Now, you could say that we shouldn't feel too bad for Callum. He's in a better position than Rayla, who is likely sliding into her worst, most extremist, and most aggressive tendencies to try and disguise this void of fragmentation, of loneliness and despair that have been boiling in her ever since she lost Callum, most likely. Callum was good for her, probably even more so than she was good for him. Rayla has a lot of psychological baggage. She has a lot to navigate regarding the major gap between the mores of her society, her personal belief in duty and honor that very much comes from that society, and her impulses toward compassion and optimism and a striving for peace. Callum helped her become more confident in the best version of herself, the version of herself that's more willing to think and be emotionally and ideologically forward instead of just being all stoical and resorting to violence. But that's gone now, and Rayla is likely going to be the worse for it. She's probably going to be more unhinged. Speaking of unhinged, we have to think about Claudia, who was already in a bad spot, already resorting to extremism and erratic displays of violence and brutality. And then she lost everything she cared about and has spent the last 2 years holed up in a cave with her father's corpse. That cannot be healthy. And Claudia, I think, is going to become a full-fledged villain in this season. I also don't think that Callum is going to become as bad as Viren. Remember that Viren sent his kids, who he really does not care that much about, especially Soren, because he's become so obsessed with this grandiose abstract ideal about serving humanity. He sent these kids to go and kill the princes if the elves didn't, because that would put him in a better position politically. That is insane. Viren doesn't see what's wrong with this. He and Harrow made each other better. Harrow was his conscience, while Viren provided a more realistic and pragmatic perspective to Harrow. But without that, Viren has become increasingly cynical and willing to resort to amoral and callous methods in order to advance his grandiose causes. This leads him into becoming the depraved monster that he eventually becomes. I don't think that Callum is going to reach that point, but Callum could be tempted, like Viren, by Aaravos. Aaravos could offer him the peace and security and sanctity of mind and heart that he really wants. Aaravos could offer him the wisdom to know what to do and who he should be and what ideals he should uphold and what decisions he should make. Aaravos will probably offer to make those decisions for Callum, and Callum will not know how to respond to Aaravos. Rayla kept him grounded. When Callum was tempted by dark magic, Rayla told him what she thought about the use of dark magic. Perhaps Rayla's stances are a little extreme, but they do a lot to keep Callum grounded in these staunch moral precepts instead of being carried away by these intellectual possibilities of the world and how they will serve these abstract ideals he has, even at the expense of what is moral in day-to-day life. Rayla didn't think about any of this. Rayla thought about her relationship to Callum and the decision to leave in a very reductive and narrow sense. She thought that she needed to protect Callum. She thought that this is what would be best for Callum and her. She would be able to seek out Viren and get the catharsis and satisfaction that she wanted while keeping Callum safe. She did not really think about what this bond offered them, how it kept both of them grounded not only to each other and their loyalty to each other, to an actual person instead of all these abstract concepts, but also how the two ideologically kind of function as not opposites, but certainly foils in a sense. So they kind of moderate each other's worst tendencies. Without the help of Rayla, Callum is going to be more willing to listen to all of Aaravos' honeyed words, all his elegant and magical schemes, without considering the consequences of those schemes. We could see Callum go down a dark path by the end of Season 4. And this owes largely to the loss of his bond with Rayla and the malaise and enervated ennui that this has sent him into. The poster of Season 4 shows Callum with puppet strings on him being pulled by Aaravos. Viren and Claudia also have these puppet strings, but that's understandable. Callum is different. Callum thinks of himself, rightly, as being this moral and just individual, someone who always tries to commit himself against all these mores, all these rigid and dogmatic ideas, to the benefit of peace and to reconciliation between these warring groups. Hopefully, Callum can maintain his idealism, reunite with Rayla, and prevent himself from being weighed down by the temptations of Aaravos, but it's not going to be easy. The story Inheritance, which was posted on the Dragon Prince website, talked quite a bit about how Callum is thinking about Rayla, and he can hardly bear to do that because it's so painful. And it is right along with these thoughts that he discovers the mirror. The mirror is going to be a sort of antidote for Callum, a sort of panacea, most likely in Season 4. The pairing of his thoughts about Rayla and the mirror is not accidental. He's going to pour himself more wholeheartedly into the mirror because of his loss of Rayla, and the consequences are not going to be good to anyone. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. I can't wait to see what they come up with in Season 4. It's going to be fascinating. And it's so surreal to think that Season 4 is actually going to be coming out. So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.